Hello, my name is Miss Powell and I'm one of the assistant head teachers at King Henry School. Our assembly today is about mask wearing and why it is important and why we at King Henry School are strongly encouraging our students to wear masks when they are in corridors, but also when they are in classrooms wherever possible. Actually, our decisions and the decisions that you choose to make with regards to wearing a mask, with regards to following the government's guidance, etc., has an immediate impact on your family, which is that second circle there. So the decisions that you make have an impact on your family and the people that you love at home. Alongside that, they also have an impact on your King Henry School family. So at King Henry School, we strive to be inclusive. We strive to make sure that people feel secure and that they feel comfortable at school. And part of that is linked to mask wearing. So if you decide to wear a mask, then you are protecting your family, but you are also protecting your King Henry School family. And you're protecting the other people that you're in a classroom with, you're protecting your teachers, and in turn, other people wearing masks will protect you and your family as well. Finally, that fourth circle there shows that actually your behaviour can have a big impact on the wider community. So not just our King Henry School family, but our wider community, whether that be in Erith, or we're talking about London, or we're talking about the South East, or the entirety of the United Kingdom. Your behaviour and your actions has an impact on a much wider group of people than actually you might ever consider initially. So that's just there to help you to think, because I know it can be quite a difficult concept sometimes to think that widely about how your behaviour can affect people. But we know that the slogan of protect the NHS, stay at home, save lives, protect the NHS, that shows us that actually by our personal decision and our family's decisions to be staying at home, or for example to be wearing a mask when you go out, can have an impact on something as big as the NHS and therefore the country. So these images were taken from a YouTube video that I watched while I was preparing this assembly for you. And what they were doing was they were looking at whether or not they could create at home the petri dishes that are being shown here, and whether they could see if there was any difference at all between wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. And what's really interesting about these here is that they were created at home, and they weren't necessarily done in the most scientific of conditions. It wasn't a really high control or anything like that. However, you can still see really clearly here the differences between when you wear a mask and when you don't wear a mask. So the first thing that I'm going to make really clear is that this isn't showing the amount of coronavirus. That's not what this is measuring. What this is measuring, though, is the number of droplets, so the amount of water that has left somebody's mouth, for example here, when they have coughed onto this petri dish. It has then been left, that bacteria has then been left to grow for a couple of days, and then obviously they've come back to assess it after. So what you can see here is that coughing with a mask on, there's no bacteria there at all. And what that means is that there's no water that has transferred onto that petri dish, and in turn that it's less likely that someone will have contracted coronavirus, for example, from the droplets that have come from that person's mouth. However, you can see in the no mask condition that there is one spot there, and actually if the person that was coughing had coronavirus, that one spot might be enough for that person to contract coronavirus from the person that coughed. Okay. The next example here is sneezing. And you can see here that, again, if you're wearing a mask when you sneeze, there are no water droplets that are then going to start to grow. However, if you sneeze without a mask on, you can see there that there's lots of little green dots. And what that means, again, is that there's been droplets that have gone from the person's mouth as they've sneezed onto that petri dish. And then obviously that bacteria has started to grow. So when we think about the transfer of coronavirus, for example, if you are not wearing a mask, you are much more likely to pass on coronavirus to somebody else, as evidenced in the amount of droplets that are transferred when you're not wearing a mask. Finally, and this is actually the one that I found most interesting, I didn't think that talking and just having a conversation would produce that many water droplets, because you would think that sneezing or coughing would be much more significant. But actually we can see here in this image that there's a lot of bacteria, and therefore that means there was a lot of water droplets that were transferred to this petri dish just from talking. And obviously a lot of the conversations that I have with students at school are, but Miss Powell, I haven't got a cough, I'm not sneezing, why do I need to wear a mask? I'm not gonna infect anybody. But actually what this shows here very clearly is that actually talking can have as much of an impact on the spread of coronavirus through these water droplets through your nose and your mouth as coughing or sneezing might. So the rules in England are that secondary schools should require face coverings in communal areas, meaning corridors, for example, and classrooms where social distancing of 2 meters is not possible. However, at King Henry School, we appreciate that some people are not comfortable with mask wearing, and some people would choose not to wear a mask, and therefore we're strongly encouraging our students to wear face coverings in communal areas and classrooms, but we won't be sanctioning, i.e. we won't be punishing any student who feels like they are unable to. Obviously, the point of this assembly is to help you as students to understand that even talking can lead to the spread of those water droplets and therefore the potential spread of that coronavirus. So we're hoping that you will feel comfortable enough to be able to wear them to be able to protect the people around you. So here is just an outline of how you should be wearing your mask. So you should ensure that it covers your mouth, nose and chin. You should remove the mask from behind the ears. So when you're putting it on or taking it off, you put it over your face first, and then you should be hooking it over your ears. Once you've taken it off, you unhook it from around your ears, and if it's a disposable mask, you put it in the bin straight away. If it is a washable mask, obviously you'd put it in your bag and you take it home to wash it. Once the mask is on, and I know how difficult this can be, once the mask is on, you shouldn't then be touching that mask and readjusting it constantly. And a little bit later in this assembly, I'm going to be talking about some of the key issues that I know that you face as students with wearing these masks and how to overcome them. Key things that you should not be doing with your mask. You should not be leaving your nose uncovered, and that is because droplets, so as I was showing you with the petri dishes earlier, droplets come out of your mouth and your nose. So when you sneeze, they don't just come out of your mouth, they also come out of your nose. And it's the same when you're talking, because you're breathing through your mouth and your nose. So your nose needs to be covered by that mask. You shouldn't be wearing it around your chin, because A, the front of your face is then not covered, but also if you have been during the course of the day touching things in your lessons, and then you've touched your chin or underneath your neck like that, and you move your mask down there, if there is any coronavirus or any droplets that are currently were sitting before outside of your mask area, you're pulling your mask down into that area and then putting it back over your face again, and therefore you're transferring those droplets, which obviously we want to avoid as much as possible. You shouldn't be sharing your masks, because obviously again it transfers those droplets from one person to another. And you shouldn't be wearing loose fitting masks. And I know that a lot of you have had problems, and you've said in the corridors, but my mask annoys me. It keeps falling off. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So these are just some common issues that I've had spoken to me about by some of my sixth formers. And I know that there are other teachers. I have spoken to other teachers such as Mr. McDonald about some of the reasons that you have given as students for why you feel uncomfortable wearing a mask. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to address some of that today. So it hurts my ears, and I understand this because, as you can see, I wear glasses. Certain types of face masks I have found personally do hurt my ears. So those of you that have seen me around school since we've been sort of dealing with this pandemic will know that I always wear a light blue fabric mask. And the reason that I wear that light blue fabric mask is because it's a really soft material, and that material is the only thing I have found that does not hurt my ears. It's also got wider bands that go around my ears, so it's not as tight. So obviously my suggestion there is you might need to go and you might need to try a new face mask. It might be that you need to go next time that your mum goes to the shop, that your mum needs to have a look at buying a couple of different types of face mask and seeing which one suits you best, because it won't be a one size fits all. Different people are going to respond differently to those masks. Other thing that you could potentially do is pad those bands that go around your ears. So if you get something that will thicken those bands a little bit and actually make them less tight on your ears, and like so a sponge or something like that, and you have that around the back, that might help. The other big thing is that it itches your face, and I completely agree with that, and that is exactly why I wear that blue face mask. And I now have about 10 of them. I've got them all over my house because they're the face mask that I know suits me best. So it might be that actually it's the material of your face mask that is affecting you. It might be that if you're using a disposable face mask, that your skin doesn't agree with the material that is there. Alternatively, if you're using a washable face mask, it might be that it needs to be washed. So it could be either that you've been wearing it for too long without washing it, or alternatively, it might actually be that it's been washed and it's been washed in fabric softener, for example, and that the fabric softener is irritating your skin. So all of those are things that you can consider. I find it hard to speak clearly, and you know what? Everyone has this problem. So everyone is in that same boat, and it's just about practicing. Or about not being worried if you're asked to repeat yourself. Everybody is dealing with this pandemic and the lockdown and the need to wear masks, etc. Everyone has started having to do those things at the same time. So everybody is in exactly the same position as you. And if you're asked to repeat yourself, that's because the person wants to hear you. So if your teacher asks you to repeat yourself in a lesson, that's not something to be worried about. That's because they want to make sure that they have heard you correctly. Another big one is this idea of I can't breathe. I find it really claustrophobic. Again, I'm going to suggest that different face masks have obviously a different impact on different people. My blue face mask that I wear, I can breathe completely freely in it. However, I know that my older face masks, which were maybe slightly thicker, or I know that the disposable ones, actually I struggle to breathe in more. Also, what you've got to be aware of is that we're not expecting you to wear that mask from the moment you walk into school to the moment that you leave at the end of the day. That would be genuinely unachievable for anybody, including staff members. So there are going to be times when you are able to just take a little bit of a break from that mask. We're not going to be expecting you to wear it non-stop, but the idea is that the more you wear your mask, the lower the risk is. So we're never going to stop someone taking a break from their mask, but obviously we're going to encourage them strongly to get that mask back on as soon as they feel comfortable to do it. It keeps moving is another big one. What that means is that, again, you either need to find yourself a new face mask because the one you're wearing doesn't fit you properly, and actually you'll find that it's itching your face. Or what you can also do is you can tie the ear straps tighter. So if you get the ear straps and tie a little knot in them, it makes the ear straps tighter and it might make it more comfortable for you. And then finally, big one that I hear, it doesn't even work. What's the point in wearing masks? However, obviously, what I've spoken to you about in today's assembly is the actual scientific research that shows that those masks do stop those water droplets from transferring out onto those petri dishes or into the atmosphere, and therefore that is keeping other people safe. So the more of us that wear masks when we are in school, the safer our school community will be. So just a final reminder there, you've got the mask wearing, and on the right you've got the no mask wearing. So this is just when we're talking. The difference there between talking with a mask on, where there are no droplets transferred and therefore no bacteria growing, versus when we're not wearing a mask, and the amount of droplets that have been transferred there and the amount of bacteria that has grown. And what's really key is that actually in school we spend an awful lot of time talking. You talk to your teachers talk to you, and that is the main form of communication between students and teachers. So it's then really important that when we are having those conversations, we are wearing a mask as much as possible. Finally, just a reminder of this image that I showed you at the beginning of the assembly. The decisions that you make as an individual, they have an impact. Of course, you're the one making those decisions, but those decisions also have an impact on your family. So whether that is your parents at home, whether it's your parents and your grandparents, etc., on your family. Your decisions also impact on your King Henry School family, and that is the other students at the school, the staff of school, but that is also the parents of your friends at school. When you're wearing a mask, you're protecting other people, and that means that those people can go home to their families and know that they are safe and that they and their families are safe. Finally, just that connection to our wider community, whether that be Erith, London, the South East, or the entirety of the United Kingdom. In choosing to wear a mask, you are obviously protecting the people around you, which means that they can protect the people around them, and so on and so forth. So in wearing a mask when you are at school, you can protect the NHS and also protect our community within the United Kingdom. You can protect our King Henry School family, and obviously we want you back at school. We want to see your faces. We're very excited, but obviously we want everyone to be as safe as they can be during that time as well. And then finally, the more people around you that are wearing masks, the safer you and your family are going to be. So what you have to think about is, would I want other people around me wearing masks to stop them from transferring coronavirus to me? And if you would like that, then you need to have a think about actually whether you could be wearing a mask to protect them and their family. Thank you ever so much. That is all from me today, and we are thoroughly looking forward to having you back in school. We're very excited. Thank you, King Henry.